I'm a Palestinian American Muslim. Today is the last Friday of Ramadan. Fridays are holy in Islam, and obviously Ramadan's a very holy month, and it's coincidental that during this time is Children's Day. It's a time where we remember the children. The children come up and stand up for Palestine. They usually have kites. And I guess what's frustrating is, and almost disheartening, is the lack of global outrage for the fact that over 15,000 children have died, and still there's no global outrage. Yet the fact that when we had Palestinian children, these are little ones, as young as like newborns, who were pretty much left decrepit in their cribs because the hospital staff was forced out, and there was nothing. Yet there was this huge backlash for the fact that there was 40 beheaded babies that did not exist. They got debunked, and still nothing. And we have actual children dying every day, and it's silence, and it's maddening that we're at this point where these children's lives don't matter. It's frustrating. It's disheartening. It's almost like we're resigned to accept that nobody gives a damn, and that I think is unacceptable to anybody. But we've come to the point where, you know what, just the few of us who are still standing up and saying that this is wrong is enough for us, and that should not be right. That our politicians, especially here in San Francisco, we've had politicians who refused, who even wanted to go as far as to reject the ceasefire resolution. For somebody to stand up and say, this is San Francisco, and say, if I had it within my power, I would have vetoed that resolution, I think is a complete disgrace, given everything that we've suffered through. And not just because we're Palestinian, we stand with our black and brown brothers and sisters, and we have for generations. And the fact that people are still silent is frustrating. And I don't have the right words, everything's jumbled in my head, but just, we don't need you at this point. We are happy to stand up proud and then have people power trump anything that come out of any politician at this point. It's too late. Your words mean nothing. We will continue to stand out on these streets, yell for the justice we deserve, and we will make it happen through our own hands. We don't need you.
I'm Elizabeth Milos. I'm a medical interpreter here at UCSF. I'm a member of UPTE, University of Professional and Technical Employees, CWA 9119. Our union passed a resolution in 2021 in support of Palestine. Our union represents 17,000 workers, professional and technical workers here. It was the executive board that passed it. However, speaking to what our Mustia told us, basically, there has been a very lukewarm response from our union's leadership regarding that. So that's why we formed UPTE Members for Palestine. The resolution that we passed also called for cutting ties with Histadrut. But today, we want to give, if it's okay, I want to read this statement because this is International Palestinian Children's Day. And this has been declared, the massive death of these children has been declared the worst in this century on such a large scale in such a short period of time. And the Biden administration is still funding it and sending bombs there, 2,000-pound bombs. We're part of Healthcare Workers for Palestine, and we make a call for International Palestinian Children's Day. On April 5th, we gather here at the Parnassus campus of the University of California to mourn the mass killing of 32,000 Palestinians, 70% of whom are women and children. We mourn the more than 72,000 wounded, of whom a vast number are children who have had to suffer amputations without anesthesia because of apartheid, Israel's illegal blockade of humanitarian aid. I'd like to say also that we're here at UC because we want to have demands of UC, University of California. And I want to share this with other members if anybody else wants to take up after a few lines, so we can share this if you like. There is a new category among humanitarian aid workers that are trying desperately to help the children of Gaza. It's a new category of humanitarian aid of children. WCNSF. Wounded child, no surviving family. There are more than 20,000 orphans that have no children, no family whatsoever, no mother and father, and this is because Israeli targets entire families, completely destroying the entire family lines. We mourn the complete destruction of homes and vital infrastructure by the US, UK bombs that Israel has been dropping on Gaza during the past 6 months. We denounce the bombing of Gaza, of hospitals, schools, universities, and we denounce the forced starvation of the more than 2 million people of Gaza via the refusal by Israel to allow land-based aid into Gaza via the borders. All of these actions by Israel constitute war crimes and crimes against humanity. And there's more than ample evidence that was presented to the International Court of Justice by South Africa. This evidence supports the position that Israel and any country selling arms to Israel is plausibly guilty of genocide. Now, it's been upgraded to genocide by the UN Special Rapporteur. We demand an immediate and permanent ceasefire, an end to US aid to Israel, a resumption of the US funding to UNRWA, and unrestricted opening of the borders to provide emergency humanitarian aid to all of Gaza, south as well as northern Gaza. We demand the release of all the hostages, including the 10,000 Palestinians that Israel holds in jails under military law instead of civil law. Many of these are children under administrative detention being held indefinitely without charges. The latest news coming out of Israel, the Israeli 2-week siege and annihilation of an important hospital, Al-Shifa, has brought credible reports of mass executions of hospital personnel and patients with visible proof of torture and bodies strewn throughout the complex showing signs of being trampled to death by bulldozers. I'd like to direct the camera, if you don't mind, to all that area. You see that bulldozer over there? Where they're constructing? Let's try to imagine this whole complex being blown apart. This whole entire complex being blown apart. Just imagine that for a second. Imagine that inside these hallways, we have military personnel executing people, torturing people inside. Let's imagine that you walk around here and all you see are bodies trampled by those same types of bulldozers around. Just imagine. Let's just imagine that. And imagine that there are children as well among this. As healthcare workers for Palestine, many of whom work at the University of California, we were horrified to see the disproportionate actions by Israel after October 7th. This was the 6th such attack by Israel against the civilian population of 2.3 million people, which has been under illegal siege during the past 17 years. There's an image called 6 Years of War. I think I handed it to you, right? Which denotes which shows what happens to children who, a 16-year-old in Gaza has gone through 6 bombing campaigns. 6. And of course, this is an outright genocide. All of the other ones could also technically be considered genocide as well, because the intent has always been very clear on the part of apartheid Israel to ethnically cleanse Palestinians from Palestine. And then doing it in all ways possible. With Gaza, it's a population that basically cannot leave. They're under siege. So at age 0, they're born a refugee. Age 2, the first assault, December 2008 to January 2009. Age 5, second assault, November 2012. Age 7, third assault, July 2014, age 11, the Great March of Return, where 30,000 people were injured. That was March 2018 to December 2019. Age 14, the 4th assault, May 2021. Age 15, the 15th assault, the 5th assault, August 2022. Now, age 16, the 6th assault, October 2023 and ongoing. We were also, as healthcare workers, alarmed when, on November 5th, 2023, we learned that 100 Israeli doctors had signed on to a letter urging the IDF to bomb any and all hospitals in Gaza. This, coupled with the direct targeting of healthcare workers and ambulances, we called on senior leadership to take a stand and denounce the bombing of hospitals and the targeting of healthcare workers by Israel. Senior leadership's response was less than morally acceptable, whom instead doubled down on the typical tropes that any expression of solidarity with Palestine could in any way be construed as anti-Semitic, which could, quote-unquote, endanger, or implied that it could endanger Jewish students. This response totally disregarded the fact that Jewish students and staff were also standing with Palestine. We demand that the University of California divest from Israel in its pension and endowment funds and refuse to hire or collaborate with any of the 100 Israeli doctors, quote-unquote doctors, that signed on to this letter urging the bombing of hospitals in Gaza. In fact, we stand in solidarity with the Palestinian civil society and trade unions to boycott, in support of the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, where we demand UC academically boycott Israel from any and all participation with UC. Unions throughout the country, as well as UC worker unions, have passed resolutions in solidarity with Palestine demanding ceasefire. The regents of the university should take a brief look. They should take a brief look and see how their support of apartheid South Africa damaged the reputation of the institution. We are asking UC to do the right thing and to cleanse itself from its genocidal ties to apartheid Israel. An institution of higher learning and of healthcare should not be an investor in any business that manufactures weapons or of businesses that aid a government that commits war crimes, especially war crimes against institutions of healthcare, education, and children. If the ICJ, International Court of Justice, rules that this is a genocidal war, in its final ruling, although in its preliminary rulings it's already given that, it's already said that it has evidence, that designation, then all owners of companies providing money and weapons to Israel are liable to be held complicit in future litigation. This means it's critical to reduce this risk for the university to make sure that our investments do not support entities that do not meet Pride standards. Healthcare workers for Palestine.
Hi, my name's Anita and I work at UCSF Parnassus. And I wanted to say that staff are left confused and hurt when we know we serve the Children's Hospital at Mission Bay and the Children's Hospital at Oakland, but there has been no statement made regarding the devastation in the region, specifically against Palestinian children. It feels morally bankrupt to still be waiting for a statement along the lines of, we are concerned that a civilian population comprised of 50% children has been displaced from their homes by bombings and military siege in Gaza, and that of the casualties of these ongoing bombings, 40% of the dead are children. Those children left living are faced with no shelter, resources, or sanitation, and 100% of those children remaining are at risk for preventable and treatable starvation and diseases with no hospitals to seek treatment in. These are facts, they are horrific, and they affect worldwide health. As an employee of a healthcare center, I am left feeling demoralized by the fact that we have not heard a message from our leadership saying that we are concerned about the military targeting of and raids against healthcare infrastructure in Gaza and the West Bank. Hospitals have been cut off from the water, fuel, supplies, personnel, and safety that they require to simply function. How, as a hospital, can we not say that it's horrifying to witness places of healing and life-saving care be turned defunct and into military stomping grounds and mass graves? It is a very distressing situation to know that you work in a hospital that will not declare that hospitals should be safe places. What does it mean for us if we cannot demonstrate the pride value of respect for the sanctity of healthcare workers and infrastructure across the world, for their right to serve and heal with excellence? It means I am feeling let down by my employer and the standards of pride that they strive for. I believe that we can do better in acknowledging the traumas that are ongoing in our world and emphasize that our mission holds fast to be united in advancing health worldwide. That is UCSF's slogan. To advance health, we must defend health, and it is quite plainly under attack in Gaza and the West Bank. UCSF is so many things. As an employer, they are positioned with undeniable interest in the well-being of their employees. And when employees seek recognition of world events affecting them, we all deserve a respectful response. I sincerely hope to hear my concerns addressed in future communications from the university.
According to this, there's been, it's actually more like 400 healthcare workers have been killed and 400 have been injured. And there's also hundreds of healthcare workers that have been captured and we don't know where they are. With the attack on Al-Shifa, there's no more hospitals in Gaza. We definitely need UC to stand up and to say, you don't bomb hospitals, you don't bomb children. And we want UC to divest. Those are our pension funds. We should have a right to decide over our own pension funds. And there have been decisions by the students in other UCs around California that have voted to divest from the endowment funds. So we stand with the students, and we stand with the Students for Justice in Palestine, who are facing a lot of threats in the university system, in other parts of the country as well. They're facing a lot of backlash and retaliation as well as many faculty members as well. So we'd like to extend our solidarity with all the faculty members who have spoken up as well and who have faced retaliation and attacks. A lot of us some of us have been wearing our khayyats every day. As of yet, nobody has told me anything yet. But there have been employees who've worn the Palestinian watermelon pin, and they've been told that they need to take it off because it doesn't go along with the dress code. So that's the response that UC has. Instead of saying, "Don't bomb hospitals," they're telling the employees, "Take off your Palestinian pins." Thank you.
غزة احنا واقفين معاكم ضلتكم احنا قلبنا واحد ويا شعبنا يا غزة إن شاء الله فلسطين بتصير حرة.
University of California, when the University of California started divesting from South Africa, that's when everything started going down for apartheid South Africa, you know. The University of California is the third largest employer in the country, I'm sorry, in the state of California. I think the second or third, I forget.
I believe it's second.
Second in the state of California, one of the largest states in the country. So I think it's really important that we push and push within our own unions to make sure that we divest to get our pension funds out of anything that has to do with Israel. Israeli bonds. We have to also break ties with Histadrut. Histadrut, many people don't realize that Histadrut is a Jewish trade union that was created in the 1920s, before Israel was created, and it was created. It was basically helped create the apartheid system because it was pushing Jewish labor, but in a way where instead of being in solidarity as worker to worker with with Palestinians, Christians, and Muslims, they would boycott businesses and would tell the newly arrived immigrants from Europe, Jewish immigrants from Europe, they would tell them not to shop in Arabic stores where if they hired non-Jews, basically. So they are the ones that actually implemented a boycott, and then the AFL-CIO, which at that time wasn't AFL-CIO, it was the American Federation of Labor, and had not yet joined with the CIO. They started funding Histadrut. And Histadrut right now is funding the reservists, the IDF reservists right now. And it's been a trade union all these years where it's given supremacy to Jewish workers, and even though it does represent like 300,000 or a little bit less Palestinian workers, they generally, the jobs that are offered to them are more like construction jobs, and they don't really represent them. They take their dues, but they're forcibly taking their dues, but they don't represent them. So it's basically it's almost like one of those unions in the Deep South where, where it would discriminate against black people. Well, it's doing the same thing to Palestinians. It's a white supremacist union, basically.
The attack on journalists by Israel, they've been targeted. Shireen Abu Akleh was assassinated from Al Jazeera from covering the incidents and really the pogrom that's going on in the West Bank, where people are being targeted by these settlers. And I have to say that the United States is allowing American citizens who are also Israeli citizens to be in the IDF. Now, imagine how the United States treats others who go to help other countries, Syria or Iraq. They're immediately treated as treasonous. Yet the United States is allowing American citizens who are dual citizens with Israel to be in the IDF, to be engaged in genocide, and to be involved in attacking journalists and murdering journalists, among other people. And why are they attacking journalists? Because they don't want people to know what's going on. This enterprise of Israel is really Napka. It's a destruction of the people of Palestine, which is unacceptable. And our union has protested the attack on journalists, the News Guild, but we have to do more than that, I believe. The unions in this country have the power to blockade Israel. The Canadian unions have called for the cutoff of U.S. military weapons. I think it's outrageous that the AFL-CIO is still continuing to support U.S. military and economic aid to Israel. What is it for? At the same time in this country, people are homeless, people can't get health care, people are in very bad shape, and yet we apparently have billions and billions of dollars for more wars. We have to change the priority in this country. We have to make this priority of our government for the people of this country and the people of the world. And continuing to give military economic aid to Israel is a crime against the Palestinians, and it's an attack on people in this country who need the resources. So on this day of Palestinian children, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking to see that this country is not mobilizing massively. And there are protests of people in this country against what's going on, but we need a massive mobilization. On May Day, there's going to be a rally here in San Francisco at the Harry Bridges Plaza near the Ferry Building to demand an end to military economic aid, to join with Palestinian workers and workers around the world. May Day, we all need to stand up as working people globally and say enough is enough. We have to stop this genocide and use our power as workers to do that.